The problem we have is, no preacher, rabbi or imam wants to acknowledge that behind the intelligence of living things, be they the wild beasts of the jungle that prey upon the domesticated animals of the field or the criminal-minded that preys upon the innocent, that their God, by whatever name they call him, is the source of this nature. We have to ask ourselves, do the Jews of today still adhere to the 613 commandments? No. Especially the law commanding them not to eat or touch pork, pig, swine, in Deuteronomy 14:6-8. Jews claim that they don't eat pork. However, they are willing to transplant a pig's heart inside of their bodies. You want to talk about bringing wraths upon yourselves. Right now in the Jewish community, many of the doctors and rabbis have decided that the non-kosher pig, swine, which they were commanded not to eat in Leviticus, is good enough to keep the blood pumping through their veins. In an article entitled Jews Get Go-Ahead for Pig Organs, page 17, by Richard Ellis Sates, Lord Jacobovitz, a world expert in Jewish medical ethics, declared last week there were no religious objections to Jews having the controversial operation, which the Sunday Times revealed last month. A spokesman for the Jewish leader said the only prohibition regarding pigs was to their use as food. There was no ban on the animal's organs being used to save lives. Rabbi Hugo Jim, of the West London Reform Synagogue, also said there were no objections under Jewish religious law to the proposed transplants. In another article entitled Have Swine Changed? Written Jacob O. Meyer of the Assemblies of Yahweh, which is another sect of Jews, dated 1975 AD, pages 1-13, explains scientific and biblical reasons why Jews shouldn't eat pork. On page 1, he states, and I quote, "The swine bears only one physical characteristic unique to ruminants, that is the cloven hoof. Nevertheless, Almighty Yahweh legislates against the consumption of the swine's flesh for human food." On page 2 of this same article it goes on to say, "The swine is the host for quite a number of severe diseases, among them the dreaded trichinosis. Trichinosis is caused by a parasite that invades the host animals, in this instance the hog. It is a small spiral-shaped worm living in the muscle tissues and forms into cysts. When meat is inadequately cooked, the parasites are released by the gastric juices in the stomach of man and they invade the muscular system. Now remember, the heart is the most prominent muscle in the body and it is also the most necessary for survival. If these disease organisms were to invade the heart and immobilize it through breaking down the tissues, a heart attack could occur. The disease organisms such as trichinosis gets into the human heart, it could give you a heart attack. Now think for a minute, if an organism from the pig can kill you by simply eating it, then imagine if you put the entire pig's heart inside of your body, what it could do. You are taking the organ of a downright filthy animal and putting it inside of your body. You and this animal are on two different strands of evolution. You as a Moor, cannot receive pig's blood or organs and survive a long period of time. Caucasians' bodies are more susceptible to the pig's organs, and that is why when you hear about them getting transplants, it is usually a success. Before we go any further, let's take a look at the function of the heart. According to New Grolier's encyclopedia, the heart is, the human heart is a specialized, four-chambered muscle that maintains blood flow in the circulatory system. Located in the thorax, it lies left of the body's midline, above and in contact with the diaphragm. It is situated immediately behind the breastbone, or sternum, and between the lungs, with its apex tilted to the body cavity's left side. The functions of the heart in all mammals are basically the same. Its purpose is to circulate blood throughout the body. So whatever ailments and diseases that are in your heart, it will be passed on to the next person and animal. Think, wouldn't taking the organs of an animal be just as dangerous, being that all of the blood goes through the heart of the pig? Jews' religious scriptural laws forbid them to even touch a pig. And don't tell me that you can take a pig's heart from its body without touching it. The Lord Yahweh spoke to the prophet Moses and his brother Aaron, as found in Leviticus 11:1-2, to go and speak unto the children of Israel to inform them of what they could and could not eat. There are 9 quotes in the Torah that warn you about eating animals who cheweth the cud: Leviticus 11:3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 26 and Deuteronomy 14:6-8. Leviticus 11:1-7, And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth, whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud, among the beasts, that shall ye eat. Nevertheless these shall ye not eat of them time chen the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the swine, though he divide the hoof, and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. And in the book of Deuteronomy it takes the law a step further by saying not to even touch its dead carcass. Deuteronomy 14:8 states, and I quote, Deuteronomy 14:8, and the swine, because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean unto you, ye shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. Deuteronomy 14:8 specifically says swine. The Aramaic, Hebrew, word being used for swine in this quote is khazir, meaning hog, swine, boar, wild boar, and is the same word used in the Arabic language used for swine, khinzir, which is where Quran 5:3 copied it from. If you asked a Muslim why they don't eat pork, they couldn't give you any real reason why other than it is unclean. Moving on, the Aramaic, Hebrew, word used for touch is naga, meaning to touch, reach, strike, to extend to. So it is clear that Leviticus is telling you not to even touch or eat a pig, not to mention don't use the heart of a swine that has been declared unclean by their Yahweh. These so-called holy and righteous Jews are blatantly disobeying and disrespecting their Yahweh as well as the laws that he sent down to them, his chosen people as they refer to themselves. You possess the same disobedient nature as your so-called forefather, the children of Israel. The same way your Yahweh had to destroy them, he will destroy you too. For you are questioning the very foundation of your religion, laws that you claim directly came from the mouth of God to the prophet Moses, who relayed it to you, Exodus 4:9-16, 31:18, 32:1, Deuteronomy 9:10-12. As the cliché goes, like father, like son, your forefathers were rebellious and went against the law, and you are doing the same thing today. Have you not learned from their mistakes? They were unfaithful servants right up until the end. Do you want to feel the wrath of your Yahweh, whom you claim is all-powerful? Or do you not believe in your very own teachings? So again I ask, how can you state that it is okay to use a pig's heart when you are forbidden in your own scriptures not to even touch it? Have you not made yourselves your own God here on earth? I would like to add right here that according to the Encyclopedia Judaica, Volume 13, page 506 states that, as early as Antiochus Epiphanes it was decreed that the eating of swine's flesh was to be a test of the Jews' loyalty to Judaism, 2 Maccabees 6:18. Now according to right knowledge, my question is simply, why would you God create an animal, make him desirable to be eaten, and in this case use the animal's organs, just to tell you that you can't eat it or touch it? Why even allow the animal to exist? Why test the human knowing he is going to fail the test? However, as I have said many times before, a chicken is just as filthy as a pig. Hebrews or Jews make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem to go and stand at a wall to wail or cry. This wall is known as the Wailing Wall or the Western Wall. It is Jerusalem's holiest shrine, Solomon's temple. The Hebrews gather at the Western Wall to mourn the loss of their temple worship. Most of the Western or Wailing Wall of the temple, which is about 1,580 feet long, is hidden by the buildings adjoining it. The wall, above ground, consists of 24 rows, layers, of huge, uncut gray stone, which belongs to the Second Temple. It is of a different dressing, decreasing in size and age, reaching a total of 58 feet in height with 19 feet above the level of the Temple Mount. Two legends says that the drops of dew that form on the stone are tears shed by the wall in sympathy of the exile of the Hebrews. The Holy of Holies was built 3 times. According to the laws of the Torah, idol worship is forbidden as a grave sin. In Leviticus 19:4 and Leviticus 26:1 makes this quite clear. Leviticus 19:4, turn ye not unto idols, nor make to yourselves molten gods, I am the Lord your God. Leviticus 26:1, ye shall make you no idols nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land, to bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God. Not to mention it says not to worship and or create idols is the second of the 10 commandments. Exodus 24, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Ask the Israelites why are they going against the commands of their very own scriptures? They will give you all kinds of reasons. However, idol worship is idol worship. However, if you were to ask a Hebrew who is standing at the Wailing Wall crying in front of a building in hopes to receive blessings idol worship, they would deny it. Originally, the Wailing Wall was called the Tabernacle of the Congregation, Exodus 27:21, 28:43, 33-7. Later when Solomon, son of King David and Bathsheba, built the temple, it became known as Solomon's Temple, 1 Kings 6:1-22, 2 Chronicles 3-5, and then when King Herod of Judea rebuilt it, it was called Herod's Temple, which was again destroyed. Yet a fragment of this temple still remains. The so-called Israelites and Jews of today have turned this fragment into an idol and around kissing the wall, rubbing the wall, writing little notes and putting in the wall as if the wall is going to answer them. They cry on the wall and some even go as far as sleeping against the wall. So yes, going to Jerusalem to sob and cry over a wall is indeed idol worship. Does this not sound like idol worship to you? These same Hebrews and Jews accuse other religious groups of being idol worshippers because they bow to Buddha, sing to Jesus, use rosary beads, kiss the black stone and the Kaaba in the center of their holy city called Mecca, etc. However, Hebrews are guilty of the exact same thing. All of this is object worship, which is simply idol worship. What is so ironic about the entire pilgrimage is the fact that the Wailing Wall itself was not even a part of the wall of the Temple of Solomon. The so-called Wailing Wall was a part of the outer court wall. So you aren't even worshipping an actual portion of Solomon's temple itself. That is like having a building surrounded by trees, and when the building is burned down, people come to worship the sidewalk that was built around it. What is even more ridiculous is that the place where Solomon's temple used to sit, there is now a Muslim mosque sitting there called Mosque of Omar. This should tell you something about the power of your God. You are putting your love, trust and faith into some unseen being who doesn't even hear your prayers. So why do some of the Jewish rabbis wear black? They claim that they wear black because they are fluent in the Semitic, Hebrew, language. However, that is not the case. And the Hebrew Israelites are following the Euro-American Jews by wearing black and don't even know highway. The Euro-American Jews are a movement that was founded in Poland in the 18th century. Its name derives from Hasidim, meaning priest, for those who supposedly upheld the highest obedience of the conduct and morals of the commandments. The movement arose in reaction to persecution and to the academic formation. These Jews of today are the Orthodox Jews. Baal Shem Tov was the founder of the Hasidic movement. Baal Shem Tov was a popular healer who worked with magic formulas, amulets, and spells. This sect of Jews wear black, although they know it relates to Shemurim, who were the priest of Baal spoken about in Zephaniah 1:4. Zephaniah 1:4, I will also stretch out mine hand upon Judah, and upon all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and I will cut off the remnant of Baal from this place, and the name of the Shemurims with the priests. According to Hebrew or Jewish doctrine, Baal was a pagan deity. The children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, Yahweh, in Judges 2:11, and now you so-called children of Israel are doing the same thing today. Judges 2:11, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Baalim. In your scriptures it says for you to wear white. Read Ecclesiastes 9-8. Ecclesiastes 9-8, let thy garments be always white, and let thy head lack no ointment. The Shemurims are the black-robed priests of different idols. They were appointed by the kinds of Yehuda, Judah, to conduct worship in high places. And they cannot say that there is not a prescribed dress for them in the scriptures, because it is right in Numbers 15:38-40, Revelation 1:13. In Genesis 4:14-15, when Cain was being sent from the enclosed garden, he was afraid that someone would kill him. So when he was being evicted, he started to beg for some type of protection, because whomever was waiting for him outside of the garden would do him some type of bodily harm. Genesis 4:14-15, behold, you have evicted me from being a farmer in my own part of the planet Earth, and from having access to your presence without a baroddering gland. I will be hidden, and I will become a fugitive, and a wanderer throughout the planet Earth, and in time, any of those people who live outside the enclosed garden that finds my disguise will kill me. And Yahuwah answered and said to Cain, it will be known that anybody outside of the enclosed garden that kills you, I will have a grudge 7 times. So as a sign, Yahuwah put a birthmark on Cain, so that anyone who discovers him will not hit him. So, for reassurance that no one would kill Cain, God put a mark on him. It is telling you right here, in Genesis 4:15, that there were people other than Adam, Eve, and Cain living on the planet Earth at that time, by the simple fact he was afraid that if someone found him they would kill him. Who was it that Cain was worrying about? And the quote says whosoever, not whatsoever, so he had to be referring to a person or people, not the animals. Now think for 1 minute, who could he have possibly been talking about? Cain was afraid so much so that he needed special protection from God. And not only that, it states that if one person kills Cain, your God would take vengeance 7-fold on the person who murders this murderer. What kind of sense does this make? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Again, this is simply food for thought. I would also like to add that Psalm 91-4 is another confirmation that there were people on earth before the Genesis chapter 2 story of Adam and Eve, and other life that existed before your planet Earth. Psalm chapter 90 verse 1 starts off by stating, and I quote, Psalm 91, a prayer of Moses the man of God. Lord, thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations. First, let's establish what God is being talked about here. The Hebrew words being used for God is Elohim. The Elohim is plural, meaning these beings, which means that there were more than one of these gods that Moses is talking about. Then the word that is used for Lord in this quote is Adonai, which means Master, Lord. As you may well know, an Adonai can be a human being, because Sarah called Abraham in Genesis 18:3 Lord, and the Hebrew word used there is Adonai. So Moses is praying to some Adonai, which could be a human god, a totally different name than the Lord Yahweh, which is the name Moses used throughout the book of Exodus. Now that I have made it clear that he has switched gods, let's move on. Now let's look up the word dwelling place to see what it means. The Hebrew word used for dwelling is maun, meaning dwelling, habitation, refuge. So the word dwelling means to be with or stay with. And the Hebrew word generations is doreh, which means period, generation, habitation, dwelling, those living during a period. Then as you read further in verse 2, it states, Psalm 92, before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hadst formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. Now if there were generations dwelling within this God that Moses is praying and giving praise to, before the mountains, earth and the world were formed, this had to be referring to some people or beings that existed or were created before the mountains, earth and the world, because the Hebrew word that is used for before in this quote is teram, and means before, not yet, before that. So not yet had the earth and the mountains been formed when there were generations dwelling in God. This is another confession and confirmation that there must have been someone or something in existence before Adam and Eve. Now moving on to Psalm 93, it states, and I quote, Psalm 93, Thou turnest man to destruction, and sayest, Return, ye children of men. There are two different words used for man and men where the same word should have been used because men is simply the plural for man. However, the Hebrew word used for man is Enosh, meaning mortal man, human being, which was the name of the first mortal man, Enos son of Seth son of Adam, Genesis 4:25. The Hebrew word used for men in the quote is Adam, meaning reddish brown, of the ground. This name Adam has many forms. As man multiplied and refilled the earth, there were many Adams or Adamites. Adam is seen in Genesis 5:2 as a group of people. In fact, Adam is not even a name, it is a title meaning earthling in the cuneiform tablets of Sumer as Adama, which was later adopted by the Hebrews in Aramaic, Hebrew, as Adama, a plural meaning dark reddish brown, of the earth. The adopted into Ashuric Syriac, Arabic, as Adam, meaning tan-skinned, tawny. Even later into the Greek as Adam, and means the red earth. So what Psalm 93 is literally saying is that Enosites or mortal beings were made evil and turned to destruction, whereas the Adamites were agreeable. Thus, telling you to go back to being Adamites, which is what you were before you fell from grace and became Enosites, human beings. You also have to ask yourself, if Enos became the first mortal of human beings, then what were people that lived before him considered? Psalm 94 states that 1,000 years in the sight of the Lord is just one day or a yesterday. In the New Testament a similar statement is made in 2 Peter 3-8, where it states that one day is as one day to the Lord. Psalm 94, For 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and as a watch in the night. 2 Peter 3-8, But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. This places God inside of a time zone and a limited space because he has days which equal 1,000 years. Also Quran 32-5 confirms that Allah lives by that same 1,000-year period for Muslims. Your God is bound by time, which gives him limitations. Let me explain further. In Genesis 1:2, where it says, And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Now think, if God's Spirit can move across the face of any waters, that means that God must be smaller than the waters.